Welcome to Conversations with Malik podcast, coming to you from Long Island, New York. I'm glad to have you and thank you all who are listening and watching this show. This podcast is about the stories of transformation of regular people during the basic struggle and pain of life. Listen, everybody has a testimony. We all have survived the darkness. Now let's talk about how we got to the light so we can help our brothers and sisters who still haven't overcome their demons. But guess what? We all have devils on different levels. So through conversations, we use these tools of insight to light the path of hope. Let's have a chat and stop running from our issues. If we live through it, then talking about it, it probably won't kill us. And that's what we're doing. Talking, crying, looking inward so we can grow outward is the theme of this show. The caterpillar transforming into the butterfly is the goal and purpose of this podcast. When you talk about you, I learn about me. Iron sharpens iron and steel sharpens steel so we can cut through the fog of despair into the hope of today. And listen, welcome to Conversations with Malik. And before we start today's show, please don't forget to follow us at convoswithmalik.com, convoswithmalik.com. We're on Facebook, Conversations with Malik. Listen, the YouTube channel is starting to get some momentum. We're being consistent. Conversations with Malik, like it, subscribe. Hit the little button, share, please. Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. And if you like what you hear with the show, please tell somebody about it, man. Let's spread the word and we need more goodness. We need more happiness. And listen, I'm here again today. And I'm always honored whenever I can have a guest. I don't take it for granted. Whenever somebody could come in so that we could just talk about life and our successes, our failures, but that we can provide hope and provide insight. And I'm here with Sean James, ex-NFL player. He played for the Minnesota Vikings, and he's the principal at Bequest Management. I give you Sean James. What's up, my brother?
How you doing, sir?
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And listen, man, we talked last night, and we've been talking since you've been here. And I was just ready to start the interview. I didn't even want to wait for the cameras. I just wanted to I didn't want to stop talking. And it's funny because in the intro I say, when you talk about you, I learn about me. But I've also learned how to, good leaders are and I just happen to be a leader in my life. My name is Malik. Malik means king. So I've been taught that since day one. But like in The Lion King, when, Simba was talking to Mufasa, and he thought that, me being a leader meant that everything is mine and I could do what I want. Mm-hmm. And Mufasa said, no, there's a lot of responsibility with this. And good leaders need to be great listeners. Yeah. So that's why when you was talking, I was listening. Yeah. Because I believe that, I know that the universe speaks to me through people. Sometimes not through people, just through inspiration. Mm-hmm. But you were definitely inspiring. And so thanks for being here. How are you doing?
I'm great. I think what you're doing is absolutely what we need more of in the community. Mm-hmm. I think that the ideal of being able to have conversations and sharing, success stories and being vulnerable is something that we need to really come to. I think the ideal of what you just got through saying about what it is to be a leader. Also, leaders are also extremely good followers. That's how they become good leaders.
Yes.
In the hood or in any hood, and I think that you're going to be able to relate to this, we have something called game recognizes game.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people don't recognize the fact that when you're amongst someone that you have respect for and you have your own self-respect, it's only a great attribute to listen to what they have to say, because then you if you're fighting against something, you'll have a better understanding of what you're fighting for, right? Yeah. You got to know what the other side is thinking to be able to address anything, to be able to have a solution to a problem.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. And so listen, man, what is Bequest Management about? So tell me about the stuff that you currently are doing.
Bequest is something that's come about in the last 2 years. I worked for a wealth management insurance company for almost 15 years.
Okay.
And I kind of felt like it was, as I got into my 40s, it was a great experience for me, but I wanted to do other things that were on the creative side. And I wanted to have more empowerment to athletes and entertainers.
Gotcha.
What exactly we do, we have 4 or 5 different arms that really focus on athletes and entertainers, but wealth management, insurance, taxes, private banking, private equity.
Gotcha.
And we really, our arm of being able to give athletes and people that, me being a former athlete, that's why I keep mentioning that, that's kind of my niche market of being able to give them things that they might not be able to get in touch with based off where they live or what they do. Right. So we open up vessels for people to be able to extend, investments and giving them the financial literacy that they need to be successful and protect what they're doing.
Right, and so they can kind of hold on to their money,
yes,
and not lose it, because there's a lot of sharks and pariahs out
exactly.
there. And a lot of guys, they get it. Not all of them are from money. Very few who make it successfully in professional sports are from money themselves. Yeah. And so when you just get all of this money as a young man, you kind of get the money before the wisdom.
Yeah.
So you kind of need people like yourself that's kind of been there that say, hey, let me teach you the ropes of how to do this.
I think too, what a lot of folks don't realize, especially with financial literacy, a lot of that's pedigree. A lot of it's passed down. So that's something that families do that actually have real wealth.
Gotcha.
And to understand what the word wealth means, that's generational income, right? That means that my grandson that's not even born yet is going to be okay. These are things that we really know about based off of who we are in our communities, right? African American people don't come from ownership of anything. So in the last 50 years of my life, these are things that you slowly learn, and they don't teach them in school.
Nope.
Right? So unless you're an account major or a business management major and you learn about financial literacy, this usually doesn't come until you actually start making mistakes with money.
Exactly. You're so right.
Yeah.
You are so right, man. And so let's backtrack. Listen, I'm a football guy. I love football.
Yeah.
I didn't make it to the NFL, but I thought I was nice. You know what I'm saying, son?
I bet you were. You look like you were nice.
Listen, my sons played. We're a football household. Any given Sunday in here, even the women, we're like, so we're a football household. So I know you probably found football at a young age. Talk to me about, when did you first know that you love football?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with, I can only speak for myself, but I grew up in a very small community in the Midwest.
Okay.
And I'm from Kansas. Yeah. And, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, that's part of the community. High school football in those states are extremely important, especially in small towns, because that everything is built around the community, and that brings the community together.
Gotcha.
Sports brings the community together. Oh, yeah. So for me, obviously I was gifted in many aspects, but I think being in a small town with very few African Americans, it allowed me to escape and find likeness through sports.
Gotcha.
And what people don't realize is that most athletes find that early in their life, right? I didn't know that I was a creative until I was 30, right? Gotcha. And that's what I want to show people now, that I'm smart and I'm a creative. But at 5 years old, I could outrun everybody, right? So a lot of that likeness back in the 1970s was, I was always the first one picked on everyone's team.
Yeah.
So therefore, it allowed me to blend into a white community. But more importantly, when we're using the word likeness now, right? Everything on social media is liked. I was liked. And it allowed me to fit in and blend in where people didn't see me for my color. So I think that was the initial emotional part that I didn't realize.
Okay.
I can speak on now as an adult.
Right.
But I say around 9 years old, I knew that I had a gift.
Okay.
And I think that happened when I was playing Pop Warner, and I was back deep for the kickoff. And I remember the ball being kicked to me and it going through my legs, or actually not going through my legs. I caught it and I ran it for a touchdown. And I
You
remember,
you knew you were gonna score.
well, this is the story. And a flag was thrown. And me being young, I didn't really understand all the rules.
Right.
And I would always find my dad on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And they're like, clipping, no touchdown, do it over. And so I remember throwing a fit. Like, they took away my touchdown. And my dad gave me that look. He was like, do it again. So they kicked off again.
And you scored.
The ball went through my legs like the Bad News Bears. I ran back to get it. And I remember at that point, and it's so vivid to me, like that point that everything became slow motion. I remember doing this, juke, and just like, it was like kids. I'm like, I was just so much faster. So I remember the feeling of running into the end zone and just being like, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
So I'd say 8 years old, I knew that it was a gift for me because it was so easy and it made me feel good.
Yeah.
Right. So we tend to do things that make us feel good. But more importantly, I was liked for it. So
We tend to do a lot of things
Yeah.
that make us feel that might not be good for us.
Exactly.
But we can talk about that later. Yeah. And so you go on through high school. What college did you go to?
I went to Missouri Southern State.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you get, what year did you get drafted?
I was in the 91. I got picked up as a free agent. And so I ended up going to the Vikings. I was there for 2 years.
Gotcha.
And then I moved back to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got another tryout with the Chicago Bears in 95.
Gotcha.
And then that was it for me.
Right.
I had offers in Canada, but I knew that it was time. I was in New York. I knew that I was done. I knew that I had that opportunity to see it and to use it as a platform to be able to start my career. So, and I thank my parents for that. They really helped me set up the mindset that sometimes it's time to move on. And I think what people fail to realize even today, that it's a young man's sport.
It's a young man's
we forget
sport.
that these kids like Odell and these guys are 24, 20,
pumped out of.
but they're 24, 25 years old. And sometimes we look at them as grown men and they are, but for the most part, ask yourself what you were doing at 25, right? We were just trying to figure it out.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, goodness, Malik.
That's why they need my help.
just gave me the chills for a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what is the highlight of being in an NFL stadium? I heard it's like more powerful than any drug.
I think it's every kid in America. There's 1 million kids each year in high school that sign up for football. Fact. So imagine in our country alone, 1 million kids sign up to play football. And their ultimate dream, I don't care what demographic you come from, what race you come from, is to be a pro, right? Like the idea that A-Rod and Derek Jeter put on those same uniforms when they were little kids and got to play at Yankee Stadium. There's nothing that you can, there's no job title in the world that can give you that high, that you're actually doing something that you did as a child.
And the yell of the crowd.
Yeah. That you can't, I mean, I'm not going to go in here and talk about the drugs I've taken, but there's no high out there. There's no high out there that can match that. Yeah.
I've tried to get really high, but I
Yeah.
can't. But I've heard from people who played professional sports.
Yeah.
That it's really like it's,
And
and that's why it's probably so hard for people to retire.
Yeah. Well, I think, I'm sure we're going to get into this part of my life, but there's a lot of guys, even at the college level, that fall into depression. Like, it's like taking a drug for so long and it was part of your identity, and then all of a sudden it's gone, right? You used to be able to walk into a restaurant, people knew your name, even at the college level, even at the high school level, right? You go to some places in Florida and Texas, these high school kids are looked upon as superstars in their community. And then all of a sudden, no one gives them the reality check of that this is going to be over one day. What are you going to be able to do to fulfill that high? And some can't. So that's where, a lot of players, a lot of professional athletes that I know have dealt with the depression, including myself.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about, because as I was reading your questionnaire, and whenever I think about anybody in professional sports, I think about having to step away with it from it, and it probably being like a divorce. Like
Yeah.
you gotta leave something that you've fallen in love with. Talk to me about your process. You said you know that your parents, you had to know when it was time to leave. But talk to me about the emotional, mental, and spiritual transition of having to do that.
Yeah. Well, let's be clear. I mean, my career was extremely short. You know, the ability to get there is something that I am worthy of, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity.
Okay.
That being said, my initial goal was to be on a full ride and not allow my parents to have to pay for my college education.
Okay.
That was way more important to me.
Right.
So my mindset, even going into playing the game, was that this game could end in one hit. So let me not get too hyped on me having a career doing this, because those dreams don't come true. Why do I know that? Because 0.3% make it to the National Football League.
Wow.
Numbers don't lie. So I understood that being able to, one, just make it to college, and every athlete out there, you know, the pros is something that very few can do, but just to be able to put on a college helmet at any level, I don't care if it's the junior college level, if it's the small Division 1, a small Division 2, being able to put that helmet on and have someone pay your education is really the opportunity. And my mom and dad made sure that I understood that going into it.
Right.
There's a lot of kids, though, that come from extremely poor backgrounds, and their whole life is like, I need to make it to the NFL so I can support my family.
We gotta make this work. Gotcha.
So I didn't have that kind of pressure, and I want to be clear of that, which allowed me to be able to do the things I do now, knowing that if it happened, great. If it didn't, I better have a skill set to be able to do other things. And in saying that, people don't know this, that the NFL, the National Football League, is the number one employer of African American men of any company in the world, in the sense of how much money they make. So just let that process. It's 78% black. So it's a community for us, right? And when you leave that community of something that you've been doing since you were 8 years old, it's a tough thing, right? There's a lot of things that have to happen, and you have to have the ability to be able to leverage some of those relationships if you made any. You know, that's why I do what I do. I make sure that my clients build out relationships that are beyond football, and that they understand that football doesn't define them, or sports doesn't define them. And a lot of us don't have the skill set or even the parenting to be able to have a parent to say, hey, these are the things that you need to do, and these are the relationships that you need to build out, because this game is a short game.
And it doesn't last forever.
It's an acronym for not for long. I had to throw that in there.
Not for long. Nice. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back with Sean James, where we're going to talk about his bout with depression, how he got through it, and how he became who he is now. Be right back.